everyone, it's Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio, and yeah, that was some pretty dramatic music at the front. It goes with the page, I promise. Still doing Art Journal Habit 2017. This is a daily art journaling, if you want to call it a challenge, if you want to call it an experience, whatever. I'm making an art journal page in my junk journal every day and also making a video every day. And the prompts that I'm using are from our group Art Joy of Sharing on Facebook, and you are welcome to come over and ask to join the group and to play along with these prompts with us for this November of art journaling. So for my page today, the prompt is metallic, and my first idea, of course, was to just go crazy with all my metal paints and shimmery stuff and, you know, just go nuts with it. But then I was watching a show that I watch occasionally. I like to watch shows where people make stuff and they're in competition. Like I really like Ink Master. I like Face Off. You know, those, you know, where there's creative people and they go and they are in a competition to see who can make the most creative thing. And one of those shows that I occasionally watch, not very often, but occasionally, I believe it's called Forged in Fire. And what it is a competition for blacksmiths for making weapons, basically. So they go to this place, studio or whatever you want to call it, and there's all different types of metal, steel stuff there. And then they give them a challenge to create some sort of a weapon. You know, there's all different styles and shapes and whatever of weapons. It might be anything from like a hunting knife to like some kind of weird sword that's not made anymore. And these blacksmiths need to know what it is. And then they use the materials available, old car parts or just all kinds of weird. I mean, they don't just give them like, here's a piece of metal. They give them all these weird challenges for using metal that you might maybe not use otherwise. And then they go ahead and create the whatever they're told they're supposed to create. And they, you know, they also give them like weird stuff to use as the handles. They might have some type of weird recycled wood. I don't know. Anyway, they make it, and then the judges test the weapons to find out. And then the funnest part is when they take something and they slice through stuff, and then the guy says, "This sword can cut." And then they go to the next one. "This sword can stab." That's the fun part. Anyway, so all of that leads to this drawing of metallic. The metallic prompt led to this drawing of this guy, and he's forging a sword out of steel. You know, he's hammering it on the anvil with some sort of a big hammer that I probably couldn't even lift, let alone hammer with. It's hot in there. I'm doing it on a black background. I don't usually work on black pages, but this one already had a little bit of black paint on it that I had scraped off from something else, and so I decided to use black gesso in the background. So instead of drawing with a pencil like I normally do, I'm using, well, it's a pencil, but it's a white Stabilo All pencil, which is a water-soluble pencil like the black one that you see me use very, very often, only it's the white. So I can draw on a dark background and still see. So I drew the guy with his hammer and his anvil, and then over here on the right hand side I didn't have anything there. I'm like, what am I going to put there? So I drew, would that be the forge? Not sure. It's the place where you heat up the metal. It's really hot inside there, and then it's got some bellows where you pump to make the coals even hotter, and then you put your steel in there and make it all melty, and then you take it back over there and hammer it. I've never actually seen any of this in person. I've only seen it on television. It would be cool to see a real blacksmith. You know, I've read about it in so many of the books, you know, it's a medieval thing and it's something, you know, I've seen it in Game of Thrones, whatever, but I've never actually seen it in real life. So that would be cool. So then I decided to paint with acrylic paint, so I got out my Decoart Media Fluid paints. And this right here is a real test because, you know, I've talked about this before. Is the color, okay, these are artist colors. These are actual artist pigment colors. Is it opaque or not? And what is the opacity? Like the more higher quality paints will put an indicator of the opacity right on the bottle so that you can understand if it's, you know, is it transparent, translucent, or is it opaque? And I would say that the majority of them are fairly translucent. But if you ever wonder, get some black gesso, throw it on a page, and then take your paints and put them on the page and find out how opaque or translucent they are. That is a great way to do it. And that's exactly, basically what I'm doing here. I know in my head that titanium white is opaque. And that's the only one that I know for sure is pretty darn opaque. So I have some of that on my palette to mix with the other colors. But of course, when you mix titanium white with another color, it lightens up. But that's fine because I was going to use it for the highlights, and you know, that's kind of what I'm doing. But then when I get out the primary cyan, however you say it, it's quite translucent. And so when I put the layer on, it just lets the black show through. And so it's dark, dark, dark. So then I mix it with some titanium white and a little bit of, just a tiny bit of water on my brush, and put some of that on, which is like basically a light blue, and then that's a lot more opaque. So then I let that dry, go back over it with the darker color again, and through this whole process of painting, I ended up using quite a bit of the titanium white just so that my images would show on the black page. So I don't do this very often, and I suggest that you guys give it a try. Try out your acrylic paints on you know, black. Of course, the caveat to that is if you're using craft acrylic paint, you won't have this struggle at all. You won't learn anything because the craft paints, those, you know, ones in the little 2-ounce bottles that cost like $1 or whatever, they're full of fillers. Instead of having a lot of pigment and a lot of color in them, they have a lot of whatever else they put in there, talc or something. So they are opaque and will usually pretty much cover in one coat with almost all the colors. I would say the most translucent color out there is yellow, and so that one never has any opacity that I've ever seen in any product that I've ever used, whether it's a watercolor product or, you know, whatever. It never does have any opacity. So I put some of the titanium white around in places that I knew I wanted a strong highlight to show through, just because I didn't want to put a bunch of layers on. This skin tone I just mixed with what was on my palette, which was a little bit of the red, I think that's cadmium red, and a little bit of that burnt sienna brown, and then some white and a little bit of yellow, mixed those together and made the skin tone. Then I have this cadmium orange that's actually way more opaque than I expected it to be, surprisingly. And then this gray, this medium gray number 6, I think it's medium warm gray or something like that, number 6, is almost 100% opaque. And I wouldn't have expected that either. So you don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get until you try it out. It's a good learning experience. So I'm just painting away with my acrylics. I don't actually have craft acrylics. They've all dried up and I've thrown them away. So it's not like I could go try those out either. So using that medium gray number 6 quite a bit to fill in my anvil, and it's kind of like alternative to the titanium white because it is really covering up the background completely. I knew that I was going to be using some metallic silver on some of this, and I wanted the black to be covered because I wasn't sure about the silver. how much it would show up. Also, I did add in a little bit of like a, what is it, oxide? A yellow oxide or something like that, gold, I don't know. Anyway, it was quite opaque too. So, I don't know. Interesting experiment. So then I got out some Payne's Gray, which is basically a navy blue, because I was interested to see how dark it would look. Like what you put it on makes a difference with this Payne's Gray. And it's a pretty opaque color in it within itself. It's not black, it's dark blue, but it's called gray. So whoever that guy Payne was who named the color, he doesn't know his difference between blue and black and gray. I don't know. It always makes me laugh, but it's a cool color. And I used it quite a bit. You know, it's a cool color as in it's not warm, and also it's cool as in it's like a neat color. I like it. So I used it to add in a lot of real kind of grungy details, almost dry brushing, not really any water on my brush, and kind of, I mean, anvil is not a smooth surface, and I wanted it to kind of look scratchy and like it had been used, and it's basically just a huge hunk of some kind of base iron, you know. Needed to be dark, but I needed it also to show up, so I couldn't just paint it black, because if it was just painted black, it wouldn't show on the page. So it was kind of interesting to paint on the black page instead of a white page for once. And that thing that's over the forge is also made out of that same base metal, some type of a black iron. I don't know what it's for. I'm guessing it's to hold the heat in and to reduce any type of draft that might happen onto your coals. I don't know. I've just seen it in pictures. I don't know if it's actually even realistic or what anybody would even use at this point. They might use like more like an oven, like a metal oven or something. But if it's made out of metal, wouldn't it melt? Makes you think, doesn't it? It's got to be made out of something that's not going to melt. So then I got out this silver metallic paint. It's still the Decoart Media Fluid paints, and added some silver highlights here and there so that things would stand out more from the background. Are they lines or are they highlights? You decide. I don't know. I'm just saying I added it. Here's my first metallic paint on the metallic page. That's kind of funny. Which I thought I was just going to cover with metallic paint and be all crazy, but yeah, I like how this turned out. It's interesting and different. And that's what I'm trying to do, you know, with these month-long pages, is try to practice as many techniques and use as many different types of media as I can, just to, you know, make it interesting, make it fun. You don't want to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Obviously, we all have our preferences of what we like, and I think that our style comes out no matter what we do. But to do the same thing over and over is just dull, 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 dull. And I struggled with that last month a little bit with the witches, because it was drawing every day, which was what it was supposed to be. I'm supposed to be drawing every day and practicing, but it's like, I want to do something else besides draw every day. So the art journal pages every day, I have a lot more freedom. I don't have to draw. I can collage. I can use magazine stuff. I can stamp. I can do mixed media stuff. I can use texture stuff, whatever I want. It's a lot more variety than doing the Inktober challenge. So for the coals that are in this thing, this tub of hot stuff, I used some red, some orange, some yellow, and a little bit more of that Payne's Gray, which is in that case looking very black, to create these hot coal looking things. And then eventually I do dry it. There we go. and I guess I should have zoomed in, but what turned out really cool, which I didn't think about it till I actually did it, was with the heat tool, I overheated that paint and it bubbled up, like it does if you overheat it with the heat tool. Acrylic paint bubbles, and it made it look a lot more like coals, but I didn't zoom in, so you can't really see it, but it was cool. It was fun. So then now I'm going back in with my black Posca pen to draw in the details. Make the forms and shapes a little bit more cohesive by doing that. I also can clean up some of the paint on the edges if I twitched when the paintbrush was there and got a little bit out of the line where I wanted it. I can just go over it with the Posca pen and you can't see it. The delights of Posca pens. I really should get stock in the Posca company. I think it's a German company or something though. Some European thing, but yeah, I use Posca pens so much. They should hire me as their brand ambassador. Somebody tell them to hire me, okay? Because I'm really selling their pens. I am. Not intentionally. I'm not compensated for anything that I say about any product on this channel. Because if I was, I would tell you. But I'm not. So, if I'm on a design team and I've been given free product, I tell you that. But that doesn't happen very often. Mostly I'm just telling you my true opinion about stuff that I purchased, probably on Amazon. So I wanted to make his shirt plaid, and then I forgot. Sure wished I would have done it. It would have been cute. That's why I started with the red, and then I was going to add some small lines of blue and yellow and make him have a worker man shirt, like a cool I'm a worker and I work with my hands type outfit, but yeah, forgot. I did at least give him the leather apron because otherwise that hot stuff would really be burning his clothes. I did remember that, but I totally forgot about the plaid shirt. I guess I could go back and do it, but nah, I'm going to be on to the next thing. For some of my ridiculously not straight lines, it is hard to draw a straight line, harder than you think. I used a straight edge just to go back in and straighten them up a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. It always helps. Of course, when you're using it with a pen like a Posca pen, you have to clean off the side of the ruler every once in a while because you get an accumulation of stuff on there. Posca pens are like an acrylic paint pen, basically. So you get it accumulated on the side. I was really happy with these rocks. I thought they turned out really cool looking. Rocky looking. I was happy with them without much effort, I didn't really put much effort into coloring or painting or any of this. I was trying to do it fairly quickly. So then once I was finished with all my illustration, I was like, you know what, this needs something. So I went to my computer and I found some of those inspirational quotes that are out there about how if bad things are happening to you and you're struggling with things, it only makes you stronger. You're being forged in the fire. Your bones are being cooked in the fire. You're becoming steel and you're stronger and you're going to rise from the ashes and you're going to go kick some butt. And yeah, those kind of quotes. True. It's very true. However you say it, whether you say it's forged in fire or whatever you say, it's true. If you have hardship and you recover, you are stronger for it. I truly believe that. Of course, when you're having the hardship, it's kind of hard to think about that. You're kind of like, this is nonsense and I don't want to do it. So to finish up, I took some of my Tattered Angels baseboard. These are the pretty much opaque sprays from Tattered Angels, and I spattered. I figured they were kind of like embers flying from the fire and the sparks coming from the hammer and all that to fill up the background. So that is it for day 5. Day 5. Metallic. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, and don't forget to thumbs up, comment, subscribe, share. That's it. Bye-bye.